song by IPC is called For My Good, and it's always been really special to my heart because just even though we face so many battles, we don't understand that God allows them to happen to us for our good. And most of us, if not all of us, have heard the story of Joseph. But what I feel like is when we hear the story of Joseph, we mainly focus on how he got the coat and he had these crazy dreams, and then his brothers betrayed him, right? And he lost everything, and that's pretty much all we ever talk about. But what I noticed that we don't talk about as much is when he says in Genesis 5:20, when his brothers come back and they realize that they have gotten food from him because of the famine, and they realize that that's Joseph and he's the king now. And in Genesis 5:20 it says, "But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass and to this day to save much people alive." So even though Joseph's life fell apart and seemed that the world was against him, God turned it around for Joseph's favor. The trials that he faced and the betrayal that left him broken became his testimony. And then we also know the story of Job. And Job just didn't love God or serve God, but he did it with everything in him. He gave every breath he breathed to God, like he was just that image of the person who you want to be in your relationship with God. And another thing what people don't really remember is that Satan literally went to God and said, "Can I, do these things to Job?" He had to ask God to say, "Can I allow this to happen?" Because Satan can't do anything to you without God's permission. But it's not God. When God lets something bad happen to you, it's not because He doesn't care about you. It's because He cares about you. Because He wants to, as crazy as it sounds, He wants to break you down so He can build you into who He wants you to be. So He can make those trials to be a testimony and serve others and be for His glory. Amen. And Job 42:12, it said, I'm just going to read the first part of it because then it just goes on explaining what God did. But he said, "So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning." So your life might not start out all that great, or you might have this dream, like for me, I was like, yes, I'm going to go to a trip this year, I'm going to IBC, but if I'm honest, this year has been hard. I've lost 7 people I've cared about. It's been one thing after another. It's been trial after trial trying to get this money, which I do have now, so that's a blessing. But, it didn't start out easy. But what the enemy tries to do is when he knows that you're called, he wants to take that away from you, so he's going to send you trials. Amen. In Romans 8:28, it says, "And we know that all things work together for the good that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." And down to verse 31, it says, "What shall we say then to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us?" Yes. Romans 8:35 through 39. "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution, famine, nakedness, peril, or sword? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep to the slaughter. Nay," so even in this, it says we are going to be persecuted. "But nay, all these things that we are moved more than conquerors through him that love us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, or angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, or things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ our Lord." Amen. Things might happen to you that you don't understand. You might say, "God, why could I go through this? Why would you allow this to happen to me?" But what you don't understand is God's going to use that for your testimony. He didn't promise us to have an easy life. When he called us, what you're going to do is you're going to face trials. Because what the devil is, he's like, "Oh my gosh, God's going to use her or him so greatly. I cannot let that happen." And so he's going to send you things. He's going to send you things. But you got to know how to trust in God and to take that and let God use it for your good so it can become your testimony.
Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Yes. Amen. That's good.